We thank you for logging on to fan590.com. David Alter, joined by Mark Masters of the National Post, getting you ready for the Argos' first playoff game in 3 years. A lot of excitement, not just because it's a playoff game, but because of who it's against. The fact that these two teams haven't played in a playoff game since 2004, and the uncountable amount of storylines that we have going into this. Let's talk about the quarterback situation first. We've got Cleo Lemon, who's unproven in many capacities, against another quarterback in Kevin Glenn, who a lot of people call underrated. At least a lot of polls have suggested that as well. What can we expect from an offensive standpoint, given the way these two quarterbacks have matched up in the 3 regular season games?
Well, Cleo Lemon has turned the ball over quite a bit against Hamilton this season. I think he had 3 interceptions in that Labor Day game. He's also fumbled the ball quite a bit, and holding on to it and reducing the number of turnovers will be a key in the playoff game on Sunday. But I think there's a lot of pressure on both Cleo Lemon and Kevin Glenn for different reasons. Cleo Lemon still has yet to prove himself this year. He still needs to show that he can lead a CFL team. Now, he's gotten them to the playoffs, but if he puts up a dud against Hamilton at Ivor Wynne, he's going to, put a little doubt into Jim Barker's mind. Jim Barker has been very loyal to him all year, but if Cleo Lemon doesn't get it done on Sunday, I think that Jim is going to have to start thinking about maybe looking elsewhere for a quarterback next season. And for Kevin Glenn, you mentioned underrated. He has yet to play in a Grey Cup game. You mentioned the last playoff game Toronto was in back in 2007, the East Final against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Kevin Glenn led the Bombers in that game and got injured late in that game, and therefore could not play in the Grey Cup for the Bombers that year. He wants to prove that he is among the elite quarterbacks in this league, and to do that, he's going to have to put up a good game at home against the Argos defense.
Defense and special teams have been a strong point for the Argos, and obviously on the offensive side, we've got Chad Owens, we've got Corey Boyd. Do the Argos stand any chance of winning this game if Owens and Boyd have subpar games? Can the rest of the team step it up despite what we've seen from them in the regular season?
I don't think so. I think Chad Owens has to make 1, maybe 2 big plays for the Argos to have a chance. In the 3 meetings this season, Hamilton has dominated the battle on special teams. It's really the only team that Toronto has had trouble on special teams against. In fact, it's the only team, Hamilton, that Toronto has failed to beat this year. So I think Chad Owens has something to prove. I think his special teams unit has something to prove. He said that he hasn't been hit as hard in a game as he was the last time they played against Hamilton, which was a 30-3 loss at the Rogers Center. So I think Chad Owens absolutely has to play well for the Argos to have a chance. I think Corey Boyd's got to do something as well. I look for him to catch the ball a bit coming out of the backfield. I think that they're going to try and do that, just to try and get the ball in his hands as much as possible. The Ticats just absolutely hammered both Owens and Boyd, giving them a physical beating the last time they played, and they can't let that happen again this week.
Injuries on both sides. So let's start with the Argos, and learning that some of the unsung heroes like Brian Crawford, someone who you can count on for that experience in the past games, he will miss action. Both these teams had different game plans going into a week in the regular season that really meant nothing. The Ticats tried to prevent BC from making the playoffs. They played a lot of starters a lot longer than you might have expected. Can that come back to bite them, or the Argos did the smart thing in a lot of people's eyes, resting players like Boyd and Owens and making sure they're fresh and healthy for this week?
Well, in terms of do the Ticats do the wrong thing, I don't know if they did do the wrong thing. They had the one serious injury, which was Marquay McDaniel, who went down, the receiver, late in that game against BC. He practiced this week, and it looks like he will be able to go, although a final decision has yet to be made. So, I mean, that would be the one big miss, because he came up 2 yards shy of 1,000 on the season. So that would hurt to have him out. I don't think it's as bad a decision, but I think the fact that they were shut out in that second half at home last week against BC and lost that game with their starters, with Kevin Glenn in the game, and a lot of their starters in the game, I think that's a bit of a head scratcher, and they're not going in with a lot of momentum. The Argos rest their starters. Corey Boyd should be rested. Chad Owens, they didn't play last week, so they should be all healed up, or as much as you can be at this time of the year. No one's 100% after 20 games, 18 in the regular season, 2 in the preseason. So, I think Jim Barker handled the final week probably better than anyone. He got a big win on the road for his team. Spencer Watt emerged, the receiver, played very well. It looks like he's going to get more playing time this week, and so I think Jim Barker did a good job. And the Argos, certainly, if you want to look just at week 19, have the momentum.
All right, it's prediction time. I know you've gone against the Ticats in all 3 games and have come out wrong. What do you expect for this game, the CFL East semifinal. Who comes out on top?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I picked the Argos to beat the Ticats 3 times this season, and 3 times I've been wrong. I'm not going to make that mistake again. The Ticats have the superior talent at the key positions, and they should be able to win this game. I think it will be close, but I think ultimately Kevin Glenn is a better quarterback than Cleo Lemon, and that should be decisive. I'm
going to go with the law of averages on this one and pick the Argos to win. I do think Owens and Lemon, I think, is actually going to have a breakout game in this one, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see. I really don't have any basis for why I feel that way, but the one thing I've learned about the CFL is you really don't know what to expect on a given week, because things will happen that will completely surprise you. What doesn't surprise me is your contribution all year. You're a good man for doing this, and I appreciate it. That's Mark Masters of the National Post. We thank you for logging on to fan590.com. We'll have the game for you on the Fan 590 at 12:30. That's the pregame kickoff at 1 o'clock. Thanks for logging on.